What's with the photo?
Shoot the other day, but from a Zulu, Fumbu, Umzageze. Ubuyani. Okay, right, start walking. The Alungos are riding left and right. They are following the signs. Maga figure out since Barababa man. Korkot Loblu and all Vulalit. Superhero ke manje uyazi obviously mkhulu akutshela mfana ikholi yasekhaya.
The lockdown, economic lockdowns that Ramaphosa imposed on us, the evil Ramaphosa, because there was no need for those lockdowns.
Why do you call him evil Ramaphosa?
I just think he's evil. There's something evil about him.
I think that's more harsh.
I know, but there's something evil about him. There was no need for him to lock us down, understanding that our country is already an economically unstable space, right? And that government was in a position that it was just not going to be able to rescue us, like the German government.
This is the Hustler's Corner.
I want to ask Sis Mandisa, and before I ask, 16 September is when Viola Davis's movie The Woman King comes out.
Okay.
About a leader of an army, a female army, like Wonder Woman.
So that's a week before African New Year.
Yes,
right?
It's coming out. The Woman King. I hope everyone will see it. When you speak about African royalty, I started speaking about think of the Black Panther and Wakanda. The second one is coming out in November as well. So there's just going to be celebrations, hopefully by all Africans around the world. And by Africans, Black Africans, but I'm hoping that other non-Black people join in our celebrations. We want to celebrate with people. I wanted to ask, to the females in particular out there who are listening, who are inspired and educated, outside of reading the books, researching, Mam Charlotte Maklege, how else would you like them to celebrate Women's Day? How else would you like them to celebrate Women's Month? And I guess also to the men, how do we get involved in celebrating with you?
Yes. Firstly, I think we just need to learn to celebrate ourselves on a daily basis as women. And we need to, the best way to celebrate yourself is to become the best person or human being before your gender and your race that you can possibly be, right? And how do you bring your best into any equation? You bring your authentic self, your honest self, your genuine self, your committed self, your energetic, your positive energy. You bring your positive energy to a conversation, to a relationship, to any encounter really day to day. And I think for us Black women to start also just taking a lot more responsibility, right? Because the more you are a victim in a situation, the more you're likely to sort of wallow in self-pity.
You get stuck there, constantly complaining.
I think we were talking about this just before we started. You get stuck, and once you are targeted as a grouping, like we are targeted, like I was trying to explain that earlier, we've been targeted, and colonizers started it, and then they imported their sexism and their chauvinism and their misogyny and their gynocidal behavior to Africa. And then because they needed to divide us, they had to first divide us not racially in terms of the nationalities in Africa, then they had to divide us amongst the genders. Otherwise, if they didn't divide us, they weren't going to get it right what they wanted to do. And because of all of this nonsense, we've then found ourselves in a situation where we are constantly crying and complaining, correctly so. I'm not saying we shouldn't cry. There's a space for crying. There's a space and a time to mourn and to grieve when something horrible has happened. We shouldn't overstep that. But there's a time and a space to stop, to end the grieving process and to live your life. And I think for us women, specifically Black women, and really all women, it just becomes very tragic when you have to encounter a racist white woman. I had to encounter them. I decided to do some exercises, like to go back on the road and start running again now that I've healed from all my surgeries over the last couple of years. Yeah. And I encountered these ladies. This woman who actually runs the place is beautiful. She's amazing, white girl, young girl. And, I do Pilates there and other things. But I encountered these other
tendencies.
Like racist. They're like, they've got this behavior, this like, actually, I think it's low self-esteem on their part, shame, which then manifests.
Racists generally are people that are struggling with certain things themselves.
And I even reminded them.
We actually have a responsibility. I'll speak for myself.
To educate them.
To liberate them from their racism. Because they're actually in prison. It's quite sad.
No, I did that.
No,
I started. I was irritating them. Fortunately, I only bought a month's package. because bengifuna ukuyizama ngoba yabazi yabelungu. You support them and then they just do these things that just justify why people are so anti-white people nowadays. You know, like I was complaining about white men who are lately, you know, they've just been re-displaying those tendencies, their road rage, where they come those 4x4s zabo. And literally like press you down and move or maba overtake side swipe. Like it's such aggressive behavior.
It's very violent.
You know, I had one of the journalists that I chat to now and then on WhatsApp. I posted it as a status on my WhatsApp, and she responded. She said, "Yo, Mandisa, you know, I thought it was just me and a colleague at work were talking about this. Have you noticed that white men are suddenly very aggressive again? I'm not sure whether they're feeling, because, you know, the last time we saw this kind of aggression in a coordinated way was late 90s, early 2000s, and then maybe mid 2000s, and then maybe every time white people feel like, you know, abeko grounded, like their power is being, you know, rattled. I think maybe there's something, maybe la maluting, you know, during eras when there were bombs coming everywhere, real bombs, not lawa stun grenades. When Namapuno would literally throw real bombs. So yeah, I'm just, you know, it's just, I'm just saying that women need to, you know, and especially black women, and that's what got me on this, this thing going on about white women who can be so disappointing, because we really like to do a lot of stuff with white women and Indian women. I'm a Kalatangwa Bali because I'm a Kalatavantavamnyam. I don't care how light-skinned they are, like they're Africans. So
I'm glad you're mentioning them though, because they normally, some that I've spoken to, they do feel like they've been neglected.
No, I'm a Kalat.
We also need to liberate them from this
But you said it on the previous episode, both of you.
Yeah, and we agree on that. Yeah,
so we're all black.
We're Africans.
We need to liberate our colored brothers and sisters as well. Eusebius Makaiser was speaking about it as well, that he identifies as black.
Yeah.
And he also doesn't understand why his colored brothers and sisters still don't. But it was intentional to what you're saying.
Yes.
Constantly divide these people. We need to together. We need to liberate.
Listen,
there's so many people.
There's a lady who's an expert on this topic called Kanyisile Litchfield Shabalala. She will give you a proper breakdown of human genealogy. So there's basically only 3 race groups on earth. Race, not nation. And nation is people who organize themselves and decide we are a nation and then create borders and all of that. South Africa is a nation, right? Okay, South Africa is not a nation. It's a citizenry made up of natives and settler citizens. But they are citizens. We are citizens according to the Constitution. And then there's different nationalities. Amapedi, Amasut, Amazulu, Maxhosa, right? So the race, there's only 3 race groups. I might get it wrong, but Kanyisile will help you guys. There's Caucasoid, which are the Caucasians, the albinos, the whites.
Okay.
There's Negroids, which are us, the Africans. Then there's the Mongoloids, which are your Chinese. I think Indians also fall under that, the Mongoloids. Anything else is a mixture of.
The Indians are probably a mixture of the Negroids and the Mongoloids.
Yeah, probably,
if it's true that there's only 3. That's how I'd rationalize it.
Listen, we are part of nature.
Okay.
We're part of nature. And as human beings, we forget that. So in nature, there are plants, there are animals, there's water. Even water, there's different types of water. There's seawater, there's fresh water. There's mountains, there's the earth. The earth. Then there's rain.
Umlilo, igas, solid, namanzi.
All
4.
Right? So you take it further. But now I want to talk about the thing of the race.
Okay, sure.
So within the human race, we are a type of natural sort of, within us, then there's different species. So those are the species. There's really 3 species in the human race, and it's those, right? And then think about a lion in the animal kingdom. There are cats. But how many different types of cats are there? There's lions, there's leopards, there's cheetahs, there's domesticated cats, there's meerkats, there's wild cats, there's different types of cats, tigers. Are you with me?
I don't know if meerkats are cats, but okay.
I don't know, but I'm just saying.
No, please carry on. I'm sorry.
So the point I was making is that this whole thing, obsession about race, and they fall under, they're Africans. They must choose. Either they fall under the Negroids in terms of the species, or they fall under the Mongoloids. Because they certainly cannot be Caucasians.
Asaz, I still want to ask on a more surface level.
Yeah.
But it's just me. Please entertain me, indulge me.
Yeah.
what would you advise a young girl? What would you advise her to do on Women's Day? What would you advise her to do in Women's Month in particular? And what do you advise young men or even older men in the celebration of
In the
where we are
context
now?
of what we're doing. Look, I mean, I'm not an expert on the issue, but
Just your personal opinion.
yeah, whenever, for me, what has worked for me to find myself as a woman through the different stages of my life, because, you grow older and you change. You don't remain the same person. But what has helped me was meditation, prayer. So, I mean, I don't want to talk down on anybody's religion and whatever, but whatever works for you, right? But pray to connect with yourself. And really read, especially thina bantu besifazane, rediscover yourself, right? On that level, on a spiritual level, and ground yourself like as much as you possibly can, right? Especially when you're going through a difficult time. Like now, majority of women are going through a very tough time. The lockdown, economic lockdowns that Ramaphosa imposed on us, the evil Ramaphosa. Because there was no need for those lockdowns.
Why do you call him
about
evil,
this.
Ramaphosa?
I just think he's evil. There's
Come
something
on.
evil about him.
I think that's more harsh.
I know, but there's something evil about him. There was no need for him to lock us down, understanding that our country is already an economically unstable space, right? And that government was in a position that it was just not going to be able to rescue us, like the German government. The German government was able to cushion workers in Germany. Companies in Germany, most of them paid during those hard lockdowns. Their people didn't go to work, but they paid them up to 80% of their salaries, because the German economy might not be the largest economy in the world, but it's the strongest economy in the world. It's very resilient. It has a lot of money. It can afford to lose money and rebound. Ours had been like a very insecure economy. And so for me, it's evil what he did. Like, how do you lock down an economy that is already such a contested terrain that affects particularly black women? You know why I insist he's evil? Up to today, he hasn't come back to apologize to the country for the 3 million jobs that we lost between, I think it was the 16th of March or April, that hard lockdown, those 3
March.
weeks, including even June, level 4, right? The jobs bath that South Africans endured. But let me tell you why you wouldn't think he's evil. Because you don't come from the demographic that was hurt, right? 80% of those jobs, of those 3 million jobs, they were not 3 million, like 2.9 million, but let's say 3 million to simplify it. 80% of those jobs were black South African women, African women, who already were living on the edge of their starvation wages. Because you can't call 3,500 and 5,000 rand a salary.
3.5 is the average.
It's a wage. And you are living...
transport.
Mawuhlala la eGauteng. How much is it costing you to move from Orange Farm to Santon?
Transport. That money all goes to transport only.
And then only an evil person can actually take a population like that from despair to absolute desperation. And then, 2 years down the line, that guy hasn't come back to tell us, abantu besifazane who have lost those jobs, how are we going to get them back? Because you do know, okay? Then add on to it the KZN looting, right? You do know that the sectors that basically lost those jobs have not recovered those jobs. Look, let me take you back. I like to contextualize these things. The ANC nje is evil, yona njengokwayo. Because if you go back to 1996 and you follow the GEAR economic policy framework that was led by Thabo Mbeki. You'll have a family member, you'll know somebody who suffered during that time. The way Sonke, we know women who suffered in this 3 million, 80% of them were black women who lost their jobs in 2020 and are now living on the edges of desperation, right? 1996, Thabo Mbeki instituted GEAR, or the ANC. The ANC must take responsibility. They can't always say it's collective when they've just announced a victory in elections. And then it's not a collective.
You're right. They point fingers when it's someone else.
Yeah, then it's like a collective. When he instituted GEAR, what happened? All the major parastatals were privatized. And over 1 million quality jobs, not these starvation wages type of jobs, Jobs that gave you a decent pension fund, a decent, cushioning against taxes, where your pay as you earn was still, there to protect you when you then go on pension, against the pension. Jobs that had medical aid. Jobs that had housing allowance.
Housing subsidies.
Right? And whose jobs were these? Whose jobs were these? Majority of those workers were black people, whether men or women.
I wanted to add, even though I don't want to speak about politics
We've never
recovered.
recovered.
But I just wanted to add on the part on parastatals that the Thabo Mbeki administration did try to privatize Eskom back in the day.
They did.
And that's the reason why they didn't invest in the maintenance.
Yes.
Which now, if you read the
Thank
history,
you.
it's on the internet.
ISCO.
If you read the history of how we started with the load shedding,
Yeah.
it was because they were trying to
They
privatize
refused
Eskom.
to
They
do
failed.
maintenance, yeah.
They didn't do maintenance.
Yeah.
And then from then it's built up to where we are now. I don't want to speak about politics, but I just wanted to
No,
add.
it's not politics. And you were asking me how women
No.
should
I was
empower
listening
themselves.
to the introspection.
It's
Akusimo Khohlakele.
I was listening to the
Uyothi
introspection.
president ethi Khohlakele, how?
You're right.
That's why I was concerned.
You're right.
Ekubeni
I
the
take it back,
previous
I take it back.
interview,
Oh, sorry, by
a
the
lot of
way.
people were mad at her for being mad at our previous president, Ubaba.
Oh, really?
Sure.
Yeah, a lot of comments. A lot of people are saying, you,
Anti-Zuma.
yeah.
I also think so.
Ramaphosa.
Yeah,
Maybe the
but like
assumption.
that level of thinking is worrisome.
No, it's actually her. I
It's-
take it back.
Yeah.
She was speaking about introspection. Women must introspect. This is a
Yes.
good time to reflect.
Yes.
And I was liking those vibes.
No, so I was then justifying from really a womanist point of view. Ukuthi and this is not a political discussion. I tried to explain it earlier. The economy and politics work together. You cannot separate them because the laws. You see, when they locked us down, when this Ramaphosa idiot locked us down,
Jeez.
he used the law. He abused the law, and all those MPs in Parliament must take responsibility. Because, for instance,
Our basic rights. Yabo freedom of movement. Yabo Charlotte Maxey.
which is a constitutional right.
It was a highly
You cannot
infringed upon.
touch a constitutional right. That's what the whole point of a constitutional democracy is, so that you do not touch constitutional rights. You can touch others, but not the constitutional ones. It's actually anti-human being to lock people down for some nefarious, suspicious health, again, imperialist project to try and bring human beings under some sort of technological control, and then use health, manufacture viruses, and then spread them deliberately, and then pretend it's an accident. And then we all know that Abu Ramaphosa and all these other African presidents were rounded up by the French president. We know they were rounded up by the French president. They in fact, I don't want to get too much into this thing, because just recently I just came to my to my radar that even Desmond Tutu, may his soul rest in peace, Desmond Tutu Foundation now is called the Desmond Tutu Health Foundation. And a friend of mine and a colleague was telling me, Uguti, in the Western Cape, they are now doing they're doing research. The Desmond Tutu Health Foundation is doing research into boils, boiling tumba. And do you know what's burgeoning now in the townships in Cape Town? And I implore your viewers and followers to challenge me if I'm wrong. I'll take it back. Gune outbreak yama boils
In the Western Cape.
in Cape Town now, yeah. I know in the townships. Like, for instance, if you can go to a certain section of Kukuletu now, ask somebody from Kukuletu to tell you how many people are suffering from boils. The Desmond Tutu Health Foundation is doing. So I'm saying, all of this is in light of answering what you were saying. Women need to find a way to ground ourselves. We need to find a way of empowering ourselves, doing our own research, right, into how did we come to be here. It can't be an accident. For as long as it's not an accident that all black people were dispossessed by land, we know it's not an accident, right?
Yes.
Can it be an accident that overwhelming majority of us African women are economically subdued or poor? Let me not use fancy language. Are poor, are impoverished. Like, we live in poverty. We are one paycheck away from being homeless. Is that a coincidence? It can't be a coincidence. It can't be a coincidence. So we need to understand, black women must understand the economy. You bring women into a business transaction. I've tried those things. Like, I'm just a serial entrepreneur of failed projects. Some have succeeded, of course.
Shout out to the failed projects. Shout out to the failed projects.
Oh,
Like
no, I
Miss
can tell you stories.
Sesfanele.
I can tell you stories.
Shout out to the failed
Goodness
projects.
is Zama. But they make you smart. They make
Yeah,
you strong.
shout out to the
Very,
failed
very
projects.
smart,
That's where
yeah.
you learn the most.
Yes, exactly, because you also learn about yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a bad team player. Mau invite abantu besifazane. Okay, there are many very, very vibrant women business groupings, right, that are really doing great things. You know, especially in the lower ends of the economy. I know of groupings, like informal traders, called hawkers, etc., etc. They do organize. Nalaba abathengisa ema-taxi rank, abaphekayo, etc., etc. Or of course, ama-stokvel are literally run by women. But you know, generally, when you now start to move up the value chain of the economy, and you invite women into a project, they don't respond the same way as men do. And I'm not being how can I be anti-women, be accused of being anti-women? You just spoke earlier when you were introducing the great Empire of Kemet movement and introducing the new African New Year, 23 September. Abantu besilisa mostly with myself, no, Munye Ndlovukazi, uSlindile, unless I'm forgetting Omunye umuntu wesifazane, I think it's just the two of us. It's not an accident. You invite women into a thing. First thing bafuna ukwazi ukuthi bazokhokhelwa ubani kanjani. Mina angikhokhelwa. I'm inviting you into this thing. Mina ngikhokhelwa uba. Angithi we need to build. So women need to teach. We really need to start learning how the economy works. More than that, we need to understand power. Power is a space. It's a sector there's a sector called power. Men understand it. Whether black men, white men, Indian men, or men understand the power game, that it rests smack bang in the middle between the economy and politics. And being ignorant and always constantly wanting to be a patriarchal princess or patriarchal queen, you know, or who's going to wait for a man, your husband, your brother, your father-in-law, your boss, whichever, your pastor, to then bring you on board. Okay, come, wazan bafaz. To constantly, you know, like sort of...
You're being babied.
Nudge you along and, you know, babysit you. This is how much money we're going to make now. And give you guarantees. Akho guarantees. This is a power game. You have to be empowered, self-empowered, economically, understand what drives the economy, who's doing what, the whole value chain of the economy, from primary production right up to logistics, the entire value chain. Understand the political game. How does it work? What is the electoral law of South Africa? You can't just be a voting cattle. You can't just constantly, you know, thina abantu besifazane maybe le programming, le conditioning khuluma ngayo, makunama funerals yithi. So makhali when there's problems, we must come. But we are the most disempowered. But thina kumele siduduze abantu abanepower. Siduduze amadoda. Umfazi ingane ilimele in a community rape whatever, kumele kubizwe abafazi. Zirachwa ubani le ingane? Babulawa ubani labafazi? Babulawa abanye abafazi? Yes, we can have that discussion. There are some who are killed by women, but against the greater number.
The vast majority
against the greater number, how many?
Men.
Yeah, it's even negligible, the number. That's woman on woman violence versus black on black men violence, right? And so we really we need to understand that to be constantly, you know, nannied. And, you know, it's like we are stuck in that, what was it called during apartheid? The separate development economic policy of the apartheid government, right? It talked about the gender disparity in wage gap, the racial disparity in wage gap, which was called the apartheid wage gap, you know, where women were declared minors. That's another context, right? That we must always bear in mind. What brought us here? I spoke about that earlier. But we need to always know what brought us here. There was a law during apartheid. Again, you see how all of this ties into what I was saying earlier about pre-colonial Africa. Abelungu bafikela basithola sinjani. Bayenzeni over a 3, 4, 500 year period to make sure we are what we are now. We are divided, we are violent, women are under siege by black men because black men feel threatened. Every time there's an independence issue about women, equal pay for equal work, men must feel threatened. Women empowerment, men must feel threatened. Every time there's a discussion about us reaffirming ourselves, black men must feel threatened. Sifike njani la? There was a law that said a woman, all women by the way, including white women, are minors from the time you are born till the time you die. White men didn't put that law to deal with white women. They were done with white women. They were done. By the time they came to colonize Africa from the 1400s up to the 1600s when they were, the end of the colonial era. And I'm saying 1600s because we were the last to be colonized, and then we were the last to be politically freed. Yeah, it's not a coincidence. I'm saying that they had a strategy and a plan, and that's what women need. We need a strategy and a plan. And it needs to cut across sectors. We need to be well coordinated, right? Because these colonizers are very well coordinated and they are ahead of all of us. They had a plan which was divide so then we're going to take the healthcare sector, then we're going to take the food production sector. Without food, no one can live. When you take land, you take water. Without food and water, you don't exist, right? You can't live. You don't even have oxygen in your body, right? Then we take the rest of the sectors, and then mining, and then all the other sectors. Women need to get that. There were laws, umthetho, not a social norm. Umthetho that said a woman cannot get a job. Then women had to fight. White women fought that. Yes. Then we could get jobs. Then us black women also had to fight. Abu Charlotte Matlege in 1913, as I say. Then people had to fight. Many people, many women. I'm just mentioning Charlotte Matlege because it's convenient, right? But we need to understand that we were deliberately put in the position we are in. Therefore, we need to deliberately get ourselves out.
You spoke about that. I don't know if it was your mom or your grandmother. They couldn't buy property. They needed to first marry someone before they could have property.
That's the law I'm talking about. That's the law I'm talking about. And this is a law that ended in the 1980s.
We minor.
This is not a law.
Don't get a parent to
This is
help
not
you.
1913. This is a law that lasted up until the 80s. That also affected white women. But of course, with white women, they were just managing us. Because labaya already, domesticated pets, Tina, we were never domesticated pets of black men. And black men were never insecure around black women. Black men could be led. In Benin, there was that all-women army. You're talking about the movie, Yaga Davis. That army is a real army. It existed in during the slave trade era when they were resisting slave because it was West Africa. It's a real army. It was made up of virgins who were married as tembu to the king, but they remained virgins. They never had sex with the king because the reason they did it like that for that time was to protect these women. Because now if you get protection because now you're a queen.
Yes.
Every woman is tenjini uyi queen. Akoguthi undlunkulu uyi queen. Ba queen bonke. And then they get this protection, right? So all I'm saying is that we need to be deliberate. We need to plan. We need to understand power relations as women. We need to understand how look, the apartheid government used the laws to empower Amapunu, Nabanya Belung, and the British. The British understood, okay, bas shayile laba, 1948. It's fine, let's leave them to take it, right? But you know what they did? In South Africa, if you look at the things that people wrongly called white monopoly capital, it's fine. I don't want to get into that debate. I just don't get into shallow debates anymore. It's too shallow. But if you need
we'll
to
debate
study,
it later. We'll debate it another time.
We need to become the leaders of the economy. I said it before. Africa Indota was not allowed to own land. Because the minute you do that, you're destroying society, right? So how white people became more superior than us in terms of strategy, right, is that in 1948, when the Boers won, they agreed behind the scenes. You want to tell me that South Africa is a Commonwealth country? What does Commonwealth mean? You belong to Britain.
True.
Who's Britain? It's the British.
We still have the Commonwealth
Right?
Games even now.
Very
disturbing
You
for
learn
me.
fast. So in 1948, right, the Boers take over the whole country, the Afrikaners. You think the British now suddenly, they started that party, but what was it called? Leaga Helen Suzman. But changed the DA, the current DA.
National Party.
No.
It wasn't the National Party. It was something else.
What was it?
So
Not the foundation.
So the
I'll get it for you. No, I'll get the name for you.
So the DA has changed names many times over the last
Before the
maybe
National Party.
over the last 100 years.
The National Party was another party, and
They
they
were
joined
always,
the ANC.
They were always different political entities. They were not all under National Party. But of course, we don't know how they voted. Nonetheless, the point I'm trying to make is that in 1948, when, is it Malan? Won through the National Party. It wasn't Verwoerd. Verwoerd was not the first president.
It's got you as the Progressive
Yeah.
Party. I don't know if that's the name I was looking for.
It had different names, yeah. It had
sure?
different names, yeah. When they won, they then had a negotiation behind the scenes. Not this looting that black people do. So you're looter, you're looter, and then after you burn a school, they burnt a school. Manje, Tembis. To build another school. The tenderpreneurs have already looted like 80% of that budget before they built the actual school with the lesser amount. The British and the Afrikaners got together and they decided they'll deny this, but you need to get hold of the real people who are behind this. And divided the South African economy. That is why you find sectors that are dominated by the Jewish people, dominated by the English people of South Africa, who are of English origin, the property sector. But they split it, right? Because now, if you take over government, you run property, you run every sector through the laws and through regulation. The only people who don't understand that are black people. Actually, not black people, the ANC black people. They're the only people who don't understand that when you take over government, you then put the laws, the policies, and the regulations in place that are going to support the economic strategy. Politics has got nothing to do with debating and all of that. It's an economic project, the political project, to come into government and then implement your economic program so that people can see the benefit of why they voted for you. You shouldn't vote because I fought in 1983. What nonsense is that? So the point I was making is that the whites split the South African economy. They shared financial services sector. Yes, the Afrikaners had a certain portion for themselves because they needed to. But the Afrikaners were very smart. They used the state power because then if you're running government, you can go and borrow money from whether it's IMF, BRICS. I don't want to get into the IMF, BRICS argument. It's a stupid argument. Whoever, some global funding body that's going to borrow you money as a government, right? So they decided, okay, fine, we'll rebuild ourselves using the strength of government, the fiscus, treasury. We'll put laws in treasury that make it easy for us to go and borrow money, invest in sectors of the economy, different sectors that become the primary sectors that offset other sectors, like roads, infrastructure. So infrastructure offsets other sectors. But they gave on a silver plate certain aspects of financial services to the British. That is why you'll find Old Mutual, you'll find Standard Bank, you'll find, I'm not sure the origins of Investec Kahle. Of course, it's not easy to see
Liberty and them.
Liberty Life. You'll find, go and do your own research. Other people will come and say they want to debunk what I was saying because they'll debunk it with emotions and stupidity, right? Because now we are no longer in a racially classified environment.
Yes.
If you study it according to the 1948 environment, you'll understand how racially classified it was, right? To the extent that they filtered it down. There are certain industries we all knew. There was always that Greek corner cafe where you could buy slab chips.
Yes.
Uzothola
The corner
ama-Greek,
cafes,
uzothola
the
ama-Portuguese.
Portuguese.
I learned a lot of these things like Gauteng. That's obsession with clothes because I grew up in a rural area. I didn't even know what Louis Vuitton was. I bengibuza ubani Louis Vuitton. There was this thing yokuthi Jewish.
It's still a slang term even today.
For ukwazi ukugqoka. Because the Jewish
Jewish
people took that industry, right? They took it. So if you go and check the old Edgar's and all these big chain stores, right? It was, yes, of course. Now you say, but your 100 is also there. Yes, of course. I mean, now things are liberal. You can buy shares wherever, play around. But how they staggered and built the economy and shared the pie, those are the lessons that black women need to learn. Not all this other nonsense about, I don't know, what are these things that us as black women we are doing? Like we don't feature in the economy. We are not a player. We are not a player. We are not a player. No one is scared of us. For as long as you don't have collective bargaining power.
What are some of the women organizations that are doing well in the country?
Look, there's a lot of women's organizations. They are mostly in the nurturing space. They are, GBV organizations. There's a nice organization I always like to promote because they always send me their promos and then I share them, called Rise Up, run by another Mandisa, Mandisa Kanyile, brilliant, amazing.
Oh, I know Mandisa Kanyile.
Yes,
Amazing.
yes,
We fight a lot,
amazing.
by the way.
Yeah. Okay, Mandisa is like me, she'll
we've got
fight you.
Solid respect for each other.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. No, you'll differ with Mandisa. Very smart. She looks after women who are homeless. She does what you call evacuations. So when they are like under lock and key by a man who's abusive, she'll then mobilize the police to go and evacuate literally, and then works obviously with the shelters and homeless. There's amazing. I mentioned Lebogang Ramofoko, who's now the managing director of Oxfam. She ran Salt City for, I don't know if it's 20 years, not as the CEO, but if the last 10 years she was the CEO of Salt City. You'll all remember the Salt City campaigns in the HIV prevention space. Oh, I mean, there's so many women, like now that I have to mention them, but my tragedy with us as black women is that I don't want to mention the ones who work with the ANC. I'm sorry, I must be allowed.
No, I'm just asking.
Yeah. No,
Even
I
in
could.
business. I mean, there's
could.
organizations like about Wiphold, about W.
Mom Gloria
Yeah, I don't know. Look,
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
some of them become a slippery slope because some of us have some information around how they run,
Listen,
who funds them, who they work with.
Listen,
so
you know what some of them do?
Sometimes takes
Let me
some
rescue
away
you. Let me
from-
rescue you so that they don't attack you as a man.
Okay.
Right? Let me rescue you.
Okay.
What those organizations have been doing is actually, what do you call it? It's like tenderpreneurship.
Not fronting.
Woman beatreneurship. Beatreneurship, if I can call it that. We can't accuse them of fronting because we don't have the hard facts, but it looks and smells like fronting, right?
Yeah.
But what some of them have been doing, especially the ones who have shares in the mining space, is very cruel. They get told to increase the woman participation. They go by Emakaya, in rural areas. By you must do those signatures, especially for mining licenses and all of this, so the community support. But there was a time, there was a movement against that. So basically abusing other black women, not actually empowering them, not involving them in the value chain of the businesses, not even creating any additional opportunity on the entrepreneurship side. To say, the reason you guys are part of this BEE arrangement is so that you can economically beneficiate. Bring your skills where we need to upskill you. You can also be part of this value chain of the supply chain of this mine, right? In supplying whatever is needed or whatever service you need to offer. So I have a problem with talking about them. Because I'm sorry, I remember there was a time, and that's why I say the ANC, because all of this nonsense comes from those people. Right? All these destructive, misapplied or wrong policies comes from them, and it's not an accident, right? Because they agreed. Phela Amapuni didn't want in '94 a real black entrepreneurial, actually, productive
Country.
Yes. So they had the perfect partners. Gulabo, what do they call them?
How?
in KZN?
Haibo. Angas.
Yes, there's some word
I'm
like
not
that.
going to give any
All
name.
they wanted were lapdogs who would then help to mislead black people so that obviously the economic control and running, the economic, all the economic arms of various sectors of the economy, to remain in white hands so that we are perpetually, so that we find it difficult to really find our freedom and our true expression. So really for me, the women who are doing great work in the social spaces, and social spaces are your gender violence support spaces, where you're supporting orphans, where you're supporting homeless women, where you're supporting the elderly. It's beautiful, it's brilliant, it's amazing. We must continue. My problem is that we are not doing much to solve the problem that we have of us receiving starvation wages, of us being the most underpaid, of us being the most abused. When a company collapses, I mentioned this last time, it gets given to a woman to caretake it through its collapse. When she brings it back, that CEO, but Bambi's acting. So we are always cleaning up. We are the nurturers.
I saw that in the last few years. Every time an audit firm, some big company gets into shit, it's always going to be a black
KPMG
female
did
CEO.
it. African Bank.
Oh, I've not been paying attention.
Yes. African Bank
You're
did it.
mentioning the names. KPMG
No,
did it.
I'm not going to not mention
Yes, they
them.
get these black females to come in and
worked
be
for KPMG.
the acting CEOs.
I once worked for
after
KPMG.
huge scandals.
Yes, but
Jeez.
even government does it.
Yes, even government does it.
Even it's patriarchal and it's racist. If they can get a black woman to be the CEO, all the better. So I'm saying that this is not me. I'm not saying this stuff. This stuff is happening. It's real. You know, maybe we should even, you guys should talk to that lady. I can't remember her name because I can't speak on her behalf. She was brought in to caretake by the way, that mess that was created at African Bank, it's these BEE thugs. What they did, they conglomerated. You know why Starterfits is gone? It was part of that African Bank nonsense. You remember why Furniture City is gone? It was in that stable. All the big retail entities that were decent, where we could get decent quality, Weatherly's.
Oh, I remember Nabo Ellerins, I think, were giving out African bank loans.
No, they were all...
When you were loan,
Thank you.
It
was Ellerins.
It was reckless
lending.
lending.
It was actually the Ellerins group.
It was reckless lending that killed African Bank the way they were killed.
I could be wrong, but Starterfits was part of that. African Bank, Weatherly's, Furniture City were in that stable. Okay. Say Ellerins, yeah, the bank maybe not. So I don't know what was the PE arrangement between the Ellerins group and this African Bank guys, right? And then, collapse like that. But I suspect there was some kind of, you can talk to better to this.
I can speak to the African Bank story, but it's going to take a long time. And some of it is half conspiracy.
So they got a black woman, but the reality is that all those entities collapsed, did they not? They were part of that deal. They then got this lady, I forget her name, and I'm really sorry I forgot her name, a black lady, a very smart woman, to then caretake. Njengoba African Bank saying that come back.
And it's doing well, by the way, now, no?
Bam ektisa. It's doing well on whose shoulders? On this woman's shoulders. KPMG did the same nonsense. When they were caught out for that, their participation in Anderson Consulting and all of that globally. Here in South Africa, they put a woman to act. Yathi masebabona ngathi sebayabuya, babuyisa these toxic males. So Tina, as women, we need to understand
I hope I'm not giving the wrong name. Basani Maluleke.
Yes, let me see the picture. That's definitely her.
Sure.
Then they kicked her to the curb when she resuscitated it. Men do this to us in business. A woman will conceptualize something, will get it off the ground, will make it work on her back. Masayibonakala ngathi say nama revenues, nama profits. Then they start all these crazy things.
I saw in a Post Bank recently had a black female CEO. Bamnikezi bolili Post Bank. And maybe they thought something could happen. Nothing's happening. So here we are now.
Look,
the post office, sorry.
Yes, I've been reading some positive stuff about the post office, and I think when a woman, because you know what's the thing, right? So you can't deny these natural differences between us and men. We are more spiritually attuned than men. Naturally, we're born that way. We give birth to all of you people. We raise you. Sing anane sent. So our sense of entrepreneurial, capability is more innate. Our survival instinct is stronger, but also our nurturing instinct, because we produce you here in the womb. This is the factory for you, all of you, to be born. So we understand, hence what I was telling you, that African men know they did not hold title to land. Because when they hold title to land, the whole family is going to be destroyed. Because every time you behave strangely to the previous one. You're very toxic as men. You've got this toxicity in you of using women you're extractive. You extract from us. And then you discard us. It's almost narcissistic, right? And it's very natural, like you, and it's borny. I'm not judging you. I love men. I work with a lot of men.
It's a conversation we need to have, because it's one that I'd like to be schooled in, because I'm currently just processing what you're saying.
When their parents get divorced, or whatever, separated, the father is always saved the grief of whatever. Yeah, umama, yeah, bekayenzani. Yabona? The old story, we are rachwa, ugqokeni. Umntana omncane orachwayo ugqokeni. Umuntu omdala ugqokeni. Why is that even a conversation? Because a rape has got, it's a power thing. Who should just be killed? I need the death penalty in South Africa. I've been saying it many times. I once said it when I was in a political party, and I was called by somebody, and I was told, that's not our policy. Ayikho enye into ezonisiza except ukuthi ninqunywe. Because how else are we going to impress upon you ukuthi madoda ase South Africa lezwe lenu liphethwe yithi kakade?
Castration.
Liphethwe yithi castration. Then you're going to be raping people with your hands. You must be killed. You must just die. Go and join your ancestors. Maybe your ancestors will be happier with you. bazobona ukuthi reincarnate kanjani ukuthi nibuye. Hopefully nizobuya seningcono asazi amadlozi akini azobona nawo ukuthi ayenzani. We can't. This country is built on our backs. This country is built on our backs. And the only problem is that women don't realize how much power they have. We need to extricate ourselves out of BEE deals. We need to extricate, which means remove, ourselves out of tenders. We need to build a parallel economy. It's the only way that is on solver. We already have a parallel economy.
Now that you speak about that, I didn't want to mention her name. No, I won't mention her name. I might not get a chance to say it, so I just want to say it. Number one, I'm thankful to my mother. We speak about our mothers a lot. I'm thankful to my sister, Penrose. I'm thankful to my 2 daughters, Africa and Nkanyezi. I'm thankful to their mothers, the 4 mothers that I have as well. For me, just on my side, in case I don't get a chance to say it, I'm really hoping all women from all races, to what you're saying, introspect and start realizing and taking their power.
Yeah.
If we want, and I've said this about black people as well, if you want female leaders, as women, you need to vote for female leaders. If you want female entrepreneurs, you need to support female entrepreneurs. I still don't know if females are producing sanitary towels and those things to this day. We need women to get involved in engineering, in mining, in medicine, in big finance, in everything. For me, it's fundamentally important. And more than anything, I really hope us as men, we find our women and our women find us, because we need to have very hard conversations about how do we work together?
Yes.
How do I help you become great? How do you help me become great so that we can become great?
Yes.
It's fundamentally important for me and what I'm trying to push. So that is my wish for tomorrow and for this month, that we find each other and we start the healing. Like I said, some people need to be liberated because some men don't know that they're abusive.
Yeah.
They don't know that what they think, no, but a man must. It was a programming that is, that is destructive in ways they don't see. Some of the ways we're raising our sons, some of the ways we're raising our daughters, we need to raise them together.
Yeah.
To work in tandem. So I just wanted to say that from my side. And I'm still trying to learn. I don't want to speak about it. I'm still trying to learn this concept of gender, because I know there are a lot of people with penises who identify as women and who might celebrate tomorrow and this month as their month as well. I'm still trying to learn about that. I don't want to speak about it. But to them, I guess I also wish them a happy Women's Month and a Women's Day until I fully understand what it means.
Yes.
But more than anything, you're right. We need to introspect. We need to meditate. We need to find each other. And women, if they don't know that they have power, if it takes someone with a penis telling them, I need to let them know that they're powerful so that tomorrow they can save me, so that we can save each other, so that we can work together. And then we can start having these more complicated conversations, which I'm not sure, like you triggered me. I've got 6 children from 4 mothers. Now, if you're saying I took from them, I planted in them, they gave me children, what have I given them? Do they have a home? Have I built a home for them? Is it even my place? Or does it mean I diminish them as women to be like, no, like, no, excuse me. I can naka my own muzi. So what does it really mean? What is my responsibility? Not just to my children. That one's pretty clear to me.
Yeah.
My children need a home. But what's my responsibility maybe to the mothers? Do I have one? Or is my responsibility only to allow them to be as great as they can and support them where I can?
Yeah.
If they need a payslip from me, if they need funding, so that they can have their own place. But igwa mama, igwa baba, do we need one space? I don't know. I'm also still trying to find.
Maybe you just need to marry all of them.
No, let's take it easy. Let's take it easy.
And if Plazu is polygamist.
Are you a polygamist?
No.
Well, what is he? Okay. He's give you the definition of.
No, I'm not any of those things. But I'm just saying I appreciate that. And the one thing, so I wrote a tweet saying I want us to get rid of Women's Day and Women's Month, because those are some of the things that cause gender divisions, which I have an issue with.
Yeah.
But, and where we started this conversation, it's important to understand the significance of this day.
Yeah.
So, for example, it maybe shouldn't even be Women's Day as a generic. It should be, let's say we go back to 1913. We should be celebrating the work of Charlotte Maxeke and the Bantu women's movement.
Yeah.
Not just say all women when they weren't all women involved. It was a specific.
Yes.
If we're celebrating 1956, maybe we should be celebrating freedom of movement, which was championed by women, but for all of us, for all of our benefits. So
maybe we should be celebrating the, entitlement of women to land.
In danger,
so that we are not always insecure.
Kind of situation. So I'm very big on that, but it's educational for me, and I just wanted to celebrate the women in my life, all the women that have contributed to my life in various ways. My mom is one of the strongest people in my life.
Yeah.
It's almost ridiculous, and I see it from my peers, as Kuliswe single mothers, largely, who later on then they meet the Andrew Tates and the Jordan Petersons of the YouTubes.
Yes.
And then you're like, Pelatina is man. And like, Baba, you were raised by a lioness. So
on her own.
There's a rite of passage which we have to go through as men, which we have to have as a conversation where we do move away from our mothers and we become men. But it must never be at the detriment and the stupidity of taking away. Pelu mama must remember she has the same tendencies.
Imagine.
It's ridiculous. So
so strong.
That's why I'm saying we need to find each other. And I love the idea. I think for men, just as a challenge.
Yeah.
How do we acknowledge our women as power? Understanding this is where you're great. Lead me. Ingane, pregnancy, this. Now, similarly as a woman who what should happen? How do I lift this thing? What is this mining thing? What is Fundisane so we can be great? And I'm like, again, I'm not speaking for black people. I'm speaking for everyone because a lot of people are lost, including the white European women you speak about.
Oh,
they may not understand how far back their power was taken.
Yes.
And it may take black women, it may take black men telling them you are actually very strong.
Of course.
Lewis Hamilton is taking his mom's surname, a white woman. There was another gentleman, I don't think it's Tiger Woods, but there was another guy as well who's also looking to celebrate. I think it might be Sizwe Mpofu.
Yes, I read about
celebrating his mom, which my mom actually raised me, and I don't want
surname,
I don't want people to just be like, "Oh, mfana Dali Mpofu, nangu Walsh." Now, please recognize her.
He's got a
That's why
I've
got certain issues with the surname thing, and people bash me about it.
Yeah,
I want us to celebrate, and understanding a lot of the women take the surnames from Mama daughter as well.
Yeah.
But let's take their names, and it's an ongoing conversation. But I just wanted to say that in case I don't get a chance.
Yeah.
No, thank you very much. I think it was such a beautiful, teachable episode once again. You're incredible.
Always. Mandisa is a walking library.
You just say that.
Yeah, she is. She's amazing. And because it's Women's Month.
Must we compliment you so you can blush again?
No, stop it.
She's got a lot to share, and I like that. And every time when she speaks, I'm in awe, and it's a beautiful moment to just learn and internalize a lot of things and think about stuff. And I'm glad that today we're stuck on the topic of women. And thank you for sticking to the topic today.
Yes. Because I veer off a lot.
No, you veer off a lot.
And then he brings me back.
Yeah, he does.
He's the anchor.
He directs the conversation.
He must. Obviously, I'm an anchor. I'm a daughter vela, my anchor. You know this. I'm joking.
On Women's Day.
I'm joking.
Must delete that part.
So what we're going to do, we'll split it into two. I think so, because it's almost 2 hours. We'll probably play part one. And I don't know, we'll come up with some sort of way, but let's split it into two. We either play part one and then we play part two on virtual Mkuku platform, or we play part one on Monday, we play part two on Wednesday, or we play part two on Women's Day. I don't know. But I really do think it was such a beautiful podcast that ngifuna sibabambe bese siyanqamula kancane. Yeah, kubabuye futhi siyenze into two parts. What do you think,
But
Penny?
they're also going to get angry.
I think whatever makes sense. Now, I pause here today at the back with Justice. So he's the one that's going to crack the whip and let them Muslim.
But there must part two is coming out on Women's Day, ne? Okay. So part one Monday and then part two on Women's Day. Okay, lovely.
So they'll only hear this part maybe on Tuesday.
On Tuesday,
yeah.
on Women's Day, yeah.
Wow.
So thank
Unless
you.
if you cut this clip and play it tomorrow as well.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Oh, he'll play with it.
You can just make just a segment, just an intro.
Yeah.
To then part two.
Yeah. No, I'll do that. But I also just want to appreciate women that are in my life. I'm the man that I am because of great, amazing women. Mama Leope, you know, I always speak very highly of my mother. I've always spoken about her on interviews, on books that I've written, on platforms, because she's my pillar of strength, you know.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I've lost both of my fathers, my biological father, who sadly passed on, and Obab Leope, who passed on in 2017. And being the grown man that I am at 43, you wouldn't think, Uguti, I get emotional about losing my parents. But
Yes, no.
There's times where I just wake up in the middle of the night and, I just wish my fathers were alive.
around,
So I always say to people, if you still have your parents around, if your parents are still alive, treasure your parents, show love to both of your parents, because just love your parents, guys. Some of us who are now left with just one parent, we understand the value of parents, even though our fathers are no longer around. So value and treasure your parents, and happy Women's Day to all the women out there. We love you guys. I am a very, very lover of women. I love you guys so I also am raising a daughter.
Yeah.
And to celebrate today's episode, I just want to also appreciate Mrs. Mandisa. You're a powerhouse. You're an incredible woman. You're amazing.
Thank you.
And you speak your truth without any fear.
Yeah.
And sometimes it says a lot about the type of person you are and how you are brought up. I guess it also shows the type of great woman that raised you.
Yes.
But also just your love for your nation and just not being afraid and being intimidated. Your love stands and you are unshaken to your truth. And uNkulunkulu aqhubeke njalo akubusise.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Penuel. Thank you so much, Sue. Thank you so much. Thank you for this conversation. It was just beautiful. Yes, of course, happy Women's Day to my mother. And my sisters, we're females only at home. So, and my grandmother who passed away, but is always with me, and my great-grandmother, all my grandparents. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. And thanks for the compliments.
And you fully raised the daughter.
Yeah,
So now we're still raising
happy Women's Day
daughters.
to my daughter. Yes, who's very grown and refuses to have children.
Yet.
Yeah, so I might try and make one of my own. At this age. If I did Janet Jackson at 50. Why? Yabon?
No, angihleki lokho mina ngihleki into zami.
Ngihleka ukuthi umfazana na 50 angazala.
Cha, angihleki lokho.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then she calls us to order at the same time.
Cracking the whip.
That's what I love her for. Guys, thank you so much. She will be back again, but they've done recorded some amazing content with Penuel. I think Penuel will announce it when the time is right. Papa. But I'm sure you guys, if you loved her here, you're going to love her more over there as well, because she's just an amazing well of knowledge that we should all, not only just her, women like her, learn from and just absorb, schabulate as much as we can. Let's love our women. Let's love our mothers out there. And let's embrace Abokoko Betu. Santanda, happy Women's Day.
Happy Women's Day.
This is the Hustlers Corner.